Alright, hey there everybody. Today we're going to take a look at how to add and subtract polynomial expressions. We've talked about polynomials already, but we're going to talk about how to combine them, how to simplify them a little bit. So the big thing we have to remember when we're adding and subtracting with polynomials is we need what are called like terms. And like terms are going to be ones that have the same variables with the same exponents. So for instance, here I have some examples. 3x and 5x squared are not like terms because one has an x to the second power and this one has an x, and if you remember, this one has an exponent of 1 when we don't write in an exponent. So it's really 1 there. So even though we have the same variable, we have different exponents. We couldn't add those together. 3x squared, on the other hand, and 5x squared are like terms because they both have x to the seconds in them. So if we were to add those together, and I don't have any algebra tiles with me, but that's okay. When we add them together, what we're going to do is we're going to add the coefficients together, the 3 and the 5. So if I have 3 of these x squareds and 5 more of those x squareds, I'd have a grand total of 8 of those x squareds. And then lastly, 3x and 5y, we couldn't combine those. Those are not like terms because we have different variables. Now, the other thing, we are going to do some subtracting as well. So if I had to subtract 3x squared minus 5x squared, I'll throw that over here. Same deal. We're going to subtract the coefficients, the 3 and the 5. So 3 minus 5 is negative 2. But the exponents, the variables, don't change when we're adding and subtracting. All right, so let's get into a few examples so we can get a better understanding of how we add and subtract like terms. And right now I've got 2x to the second plus 4x minus 3 added to 3x to the second minus 7x plus 5. All right, and the way I like to do this is if there are parentheses here, show me that this is one polynomial and this is the other one. I don't need the parentheses necessarily because normally parentheses do mean multiplication, but there's no number on the outside, so we're not going to have to multiply by anything, or if we do, we'd multiply by 1. So I'll write 2x squared, 4x minus 3, and here we also have a 1 being multiplied by the parentheses, 3x squared minus 7x plus 5. All right, now we're going to look for like terms that we can add together. For this example, I'm going to write it out a little bit more in depth than I normally would. So 2x squared and 3x squared are like terms. So I'll add them together and that'll give me 5x squareds. All right. I notice that there's a 4x and a minus 7x here. So that minus 7 is like a negative 7x. So those are like terms, and I will get a negative 3x. And then I have a minus 3 or a negative 3 that I'm going to add to 5. So negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2. Right? Which makes my final result, my final answer, 5x to the second minus 3x plus 2. And I'm done. All right, so there's I can't subtract 5x squared minus 3x. Those aren't like terms. All right, so let's try this second one. This one now, there are numbers on the outside of the parentheses, so that means I'm going to multiply. I'm going to think order of operations. If I could do anything inside the parentheses, I would, but those aren't like terms, so I can't. Same thing with 2x squared and 1. Can't add those. They're not like terms. There aren't any exponents to evaluate, like I can't do any more than I have already done here. So I'm going to go on to multiplying. And you notice I don't need like things to multiply. Like 3 can be multiplied by 4x squared or by minus 5x, and that's totally okay. I'm also going to multiply the 8, so it's a positive 8 times 2x squared. And I want to multiply 8 by 1. I don't want to forget to distribute. And now I'll look for some like terms to combine. So 12x to the second and 16x to the second. Those have the same variables, the same exponents. So I'm going to add them together and get 28 x to the second. So again, not adding the exponents together. Then I have a minus 15x. Now there isn't another x term, another linear term in this expression. So I'm just going to write it down. And the only constant term is here at the 8. So there's nothing to combine that with. So I'll just tack that on. And I wrote my answer in standard form. So largest power of x first. Then I went to the next largest power and on down until I got to the constant term. Right? Now, it might seem like in that first example, it was like a waste of time to rewrite this without the parentheses, but I think it's really good for us to do that. Write that middle step in, especially when I'm going to subtract. Right? So when I subtract two polynomials, well, again, this is just multiplied by 1, so I don't really need parentheses here. So far, it's like, what's the big deal? Why do this? But now I'm subtracting. I'm subtracting everything in this set of parentheses with that minus sign. That's what the parentheses are telling me. Subtract all of it. You could also think of it as, hey, let's distribute -1 times all of this. And -1 times 3x squared is minus 3x squared. And then -1 times a minus 7x, or a negative times a negative, is a positive 7x. And then -1 times 5 will be a minus 5. So all the signs in that second set of parentheses are going to change because I'm subtracting them or multiplying by -1, whatever you prefer to think about, or however you prefer to think about it. All right, now I'll combine the like terms. 2x squared minus 3x squared. X squareds I can combine. That is -1x squared, but I don't need to write the 1. And then we have a 4x and a 7x, and I'll add those. A 4x plus 7x is 11x. Right, because that is a plus 7x. That minus that's after this we write is going with a 3. And when we write negative signs in, we write them in before the number. We don't write them after the number. So that negative doesn't have anything to do with this 4x. It really has to do with the 3. All right. And then lastly, I've got a minus 3, speaking of, and a minus 5. So -3 minus 5 is -8. And I can't combine those terms any further, so I'm done. My final answer is -x squared plus 11x minus 8. So this is a good start with adding and subtracting polynomials. It does take some practice. The big thing is just don't try and rush through it or skip steps. It's really important that you are precise and you pay attention to details. And if you do that, you should be okay. All right, so thank you very much and have a good day.